Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yesterday, on this platform, we had a long discussion with quite a number of people who were involved on Zimbabwe's political situation. I've just come across this video in which Prince Mashele, a political analyst and author from South Africa, is addressing the problems that South Africa is facing. The parallels between Zimbabwe and South Africa cannot be denied, albeit that Zimbabwe is, if it was a matter of patience, symptoms are way advanced. We are in a worse state than South Africa is. But nonetheless, the disease is the same. Gross mismanagement, rampant corruption, and a dysfunctional political system. Zimbabwe's dysfunctional political system is much worse in the sense that while South Africa has got democratic institutions that have managed to keep that nation on track in terms of democratic accountability, Zimbabwe has completely fallen off the track. Our democratic institutions are no longer working. But nonetheless, the solutions he's proposing in this video, many of those apply to Zimbabwe as well. Tonight, I will not play any of the video clip itself because it is a fairly long one, and I'll just confine this discussion to discussing 3 points that he raised. Well, 2 points that Prince Mashele raised, that the country's problem in South Africa can be resolved by having a new political dispensation in which all those who have participated in the past, from MP to president of South Africa, are thoroughly investigated for corruption. His argument is corruption has become so rampant, the only sure way of curing it is giving a public demonstration that those who have been in public office and have proven to be corrupt are not above the law. The second point he's making is that South Africa should have a new political dispensation in which the actors, the elected leaders, are elected purely on merit, nothing more, nothing less, regardless of race and gender, etc. That to me appeals because I think it makes a lot of sense. And the third point, which I think we should address, is the issue of this government in exile. Because in his new dispensation, he's not talking of those people being elected and should be outside South Africa, otherwise a government in exile, which we discussed yesterday on this platform. But I think he's addressing it in another way. So to help put more meat, flesh on those skeletons, particularly on those 3 points, I've got Benjamin here tonight. Welcome to you, Benjamin.
Good day to you and good day to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. When we look at the Zimbabwe situation, we can say that we have had two different presidents. Though, it wasn't a constitutional handover and takeover of power. We know Mugabe was booted out through a military coup, and now we have Mnangagwa. So basically, the main reason of the coup, according to ZANU PF or according to Mnangagwa and his cronies, was that the president was surrounded by criminals, and there was need to purge or to cleanse the presidency. But you know, looking at it now, you look and you wonder, did we really do a clean up, or was it a proper cleanup job? Because Zimbabwe corruption levels have just increased astronomically. I mean, corruption is now a way of life. If you go in the streets of Harare, they have created a word called kungwava ngwava, which means you're both stealing and looking. It has become our way of getting by. And it just doesn't start from the bottom, it starts from the top. you know you look at the points that you have raised, of what Mashele, Prince Mashele was saying, to say Zimbabwe, when you even look at the hierarchy, you are finding that most of those people that are occupying top positions are related amongst themselves. One, you have the children of Mnangagwa holding key positions within government. You find one that is a soldier within the army is driving a Lamborghini. The math don't work out. So, I have to agree, with Prince Mashele there to say, this is what is happening not only in South Africa and Zimbabwe, but across Africa. This is our new way of life, and it has become acceptable amongst our leadership, our communities. And this is what we stand up even at big international meetings and try and teach others not to do, but we are living this, the slump. It's very discouraging, when you get up and you see, what Africa is, and then you contrast it with what it could have been, knowing the vast riches that our beautiful continent has.
Well, one of the solutions that is proposed in this video clip, like I said, was that all leaders who have been either MPs right up to the presidents since independence should be, and their cronies should be thoroughly investigated for corruption. That is a radical idea. But one cannot deny that corruption has become so rampant, particularly in a country like Zimbabwe, that uprooting it is now near impossible. Because those in positions of power and authority are the ones who have been benefiting from the corruption. Right now, the people of Zimbabwe have been occupied with this constitutional amendment bill number 3. The bill has been passed. One of the things that it has done is extend the term of office in power of those elected officials without having to go to elections. I mean, that is a direct contradiction of what democratic accountability is all about. These are the individuals who were elected by the people, who are supposed to be accountable to the people. And they were elected for a specific period, 5 years. And they're supposed to come back to the voters after those 5 years. They were elected, and now they've decided, no, we are going to change the law and extend our stay in office by another additional 2 years without reference to the people. That flies in the face of logic. So you're no longer accountable to the people. That's what it means. And the Constitution was very specific on those issues. And let's face it, the people, when they wrote the 2013 Constitution, they knew they will have problems with these elected officials, trying by hook and by crook to overstay. After all, when we wrote the 2013 Constitution, we had Robert Mugabe. We had been in power at that time in 2013 for 33 years. We had failed to remove him from office because ZANU-PF rigged the elections repeatedly. And so the people really fought hard to have that included into the Constitution. One of the clauses they wanted to put in, which was ruled out, no doubt, by ZANU-PF, was the age limit. But at least having that 2-term limit has given people hope. Okay, maybe if the individual, we can't remove him democratically, the Constitution will force him to leave after serving the maximum 2 terms. And what has happened with Mnangagwa is turned around and changed it. And I think, therefore, then the commitment by people to say, okay, all those who have been MPs and above since 1980 and their cronies must be thoroughly investigated for corruption and mismanagement. We have a serious problem, a serious cancer in society: corruption, greed, and abuse of office. And a serious medical challenge like that requires radical measures. And I think Prince Mashele's idea is not out of this world. It is a solution. Let's commit to a situation where the next change of government will commit to investigating all those who have been MPs and above since 1980 to a thorough investigation, personal audit, them and their cronies. That does not is not an outrageous statement. I think it's a realistic one. And it will send a clear message that the kind of corruption and gross mismanagement and abuse of office we have seen, particularly in a country like Zimbabwe, particularly with the passing of this obnoxious constitutional amendment bill number 3, cannot be tolerated by any society.
Now, in as much as I agree with him, but when it comes to, Africa, particularly Zimbabwe, it is easier said than done. I can give you, a list of schemes that ZANU-PF and government have come up with, to try and help the people and all sorts of things. On paper, they make very good sense. In practice, it has never ever worked out. It's the same thing. Our constitution says something fair and fine, which is what the people of Zimbabwe need to get themselves on the democratic path. But as we have seen, when it comes to practicing it, ZANU-PF are totally the opposite. What is black and white will be arm twisted, turned, and so many things until it looks like what ZANU-PF wants it to look. We have had, I gave an example to say Mugabe was ousted because it was said that there were criminals surrounding him. One can simply ask today, where are the criminals? Because none of them have been arrested. They were so sure that Mugabe was surrounded by criminals. If they had said a criminal, it was okay. It would have been one. But criminals, which means there's more than one. But no one was ever arrested. Nothing was ever brought back. Mnangagwa, when he came in, he says, whoever took things, or whoever committed corruption, return those things and we will not ask you anything. Nobody even returned a single thing up to today. Believe it or not. And some of the people that were surrounding the president came to surround him as well. And then obviously he had his other top-up cronies. The Ziganandas, that is what they are being called now, who have now gone into overdrive in terms of corruption. They are now being paid to be corrupt. They are now advisors to the president. I don't know if Mugabe was surrounded. I don't know how we can describe Mnangagwa. He must, they must have camped or have since taken over. On theoretically, Africa could be great. Zimbabwe would have been great. But because we do not even practice whatever we write down. Look, the Constitution, the 2013 Constitution, you were speaking about how, the people of Zimbabwe had suffered, trying to get rid of Mugabe. And those, clauses that were put in there were meant to stop another Mugabe. Before we even tried it out, before it even tested, they've already gone and changed it. And as things look and things stand, I will bet you they will extend again, because we have already seen some of the top ZANU-PF members campaigning already to say 27, the 7 years should start today, which means it's supposed to carry over until 2033. And some are already saying we can still change it to 2037 within ZANU-PF already. We just changed now. Some are already saying that they want to extend it again. So this just means that whatever we have written down is not worth the paper that it is written on. Our constitution is not worth the paper that it is written on because we violate it every single time. This is how I see Africa is more of theory than anything in practice.
Well, the other important concept that Prince is proposing is that those who are going to be involved in the new political dispensation should not include
I think your mic is muted, Robert.
sorry, it is not. I don't know what has happened there. Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, I think I can see it's working now. The point is,
Hello, Robert.
yeah, I think it's working.
Your mic must be muted.
No, it's not. I think it is working. The point is that those who were involved in politics so far should not play a part in the new dispensation. This idea of recycling the same failed, corrupt, incompetent leaders is at the heart of why we've perpetuated the dictatorship. We should have the courage to say, you have failed. We need a fresh leader. Recycling the same dead wood is at the heart of why we are a failed state. And I think the people to focus on that idea that we want to see the CV of these people who are going to be involved in the new dispensation is important. And in this particular case, one of the disqualifications is if you've been involved in ZANU-PF leadership, MDC, CCC leadership, you cannot be in the new dispensation. Is important, and I think should be seriously pursued. And it can be pursued. There is nothing to stop people holding those who have been in power to account. And some of us have been arguing on that point. We need to have a culture of holding leaders to account. And if we did, that automatic disqualification will apply. We've not been holding leaders to account, and hence the reason why we've been caught up in this mess. The third and last point, which I think is important and is worth considering, is this issue of leaders, or rather, whether or not Zimbabweans should form a government in exile. I think at the heart of that argument is the failure to accept that Zimbabweans have been participating in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that if you participate, you give ZANU-PF legitimacy. I've quoted this from David Coulthard spoke, in which he admitted that the 2013 election process was so flawed, so illegal, that the only logical step was to withdraw. He goes on to explain why he did not withdraw. Corruption, greed. And this has been at the heart of this problem. If you participate in a flawed process, you have to accept the consequences are you are giving the regime legitimacy. And this is where the problem with some of our people, because they've participated out of ignorance. They have believed, some of them have believed the idiotic lies from the likes of Chamisa. But at the end of the day, they've participated. And they've given the regime legitimacy. And for some reason, they don't want to accept the consequences of their wrong decision is giving ZANU-PF legitimacy. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to participate and think they can not pay the price for it. Well, the reality in life is you pay the price. You participate, you have given ZANU-PF legitimacy. And if you have given ZANU-PF legitimacy, you cannot argue that we want a government in exile. Because you have just given the government that is there in Harare today legitimacy. Why did you give it legitimacy? So that point must be understood. And I think it is at the heart of the argument here. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
I'm glad you spoke about, the kind of elections that we have in Zimbabwe. And I was saying, on paper, it may make sense. But in practice, ZANU-PF has never done that. I mean, we have had, observer missions that have come to observe how we conduct and practice our elections. And each and every time they've said, what your constitution says and what you are doing, it doesn't add up. You are not doing what the constitution says, which means that we are violating our own constitution. ZANU-PF is giving us a sham of an election. It should be clear to everybody by now. But, like you said, you cannot understand how Zimbabweans have failed to understand that they're participating in rigged elections. They're participating in flawed elections. They're participating in illegal elections. They say, imbava. We are accomplices to ZANU-PF now because we keep on participating in rigged elections. The only disadvantage of that is that we are then left high and dry, and ZANU-PF is benefiting from our participating. This is where a lot of Zimbabweans are failing to understand that simple concept, that participating in rigged elections is what is keeping the suffering going. It is what is, the lifeline and the, the lifeblood of ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is thriving because of our continued participation in rigged election. And we have been warned over and over again. And then, especially after you have tried to explain something that is so simple that some people should just know, tomorrow they will ask you, so what is the solution? The solution has always been stop participating in rigged elections, in illegal elections. Stop giving a lifeline to ZANU-PF. That is all that it is saying. And then you can start start pulling yourselves out of this mess. It's really discouraging how even the very, very intellectual, or those that claim to be intellectuals, miss such a simple thing and are dragged from election to election to election. And each and every time we go into that meaningless election, ZANU-PF would have twisted the constitution even more. They would have violated it even more. They would have tightened the bolts even more. It is pretty sad that we still cannot understand these simple truths 46 years after independence, that Zimbabwe is not a democracy.
Just my last word on this one is for those of you who would like to listen to that video clip, you can get it on the address shown at the bottom of your screen there. Or if you Google the title at the bottom of the screen as well, I'm sure you can get it. But to come back to the issue of Zimbabwe, what is the way forward? And I think we can get a page or several pages from what Prince Mashela is saying here. And I've enumerated the two proposals that he's saying, and I think they can work in Zimbabwe. But in my closing remark, I would say one of the issues that any future government in Zimbabwe, the people should insist on to take that new government seriously, is that the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 should be scrapped. That is a commitment that any thinking Zimbabwean out there should be making abundantly clear, that they will not vote for anyone who does not commit to scrapping that Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, because it is obnoxious. Zimbabwe is a de facto one-party state. And that Constitutional Amendment Bill, what it has done is created a situation where we have moved now from a de facto one-party state to a de jure one-party state. It has opened a Pandora's box. The regime knew that they were opening a Pandora's box. If Parliament, for instance, has got the power to extend their own stay in office by 2 years, what is there to stop them extending it by 3 years? And having extended it by 3 years, what is there to stop them extending it further one way or the other? the limit of mischief that can emanate from this Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 is absolutely unbelievable. The right of the people to hold those who hold public office to account has been seriously eroded by this obnoxious Constitutional Amendment Bill. And therefore, then, I honestly believe that the people of Zimbabwe should make it very clear from the word go that in future, they will not be electing any public official who does not commit to scrapping this obnoxious amendment bill. And they will not elect anyone into public office who was in any way involved in the passing of this constitutional amendment bill. This is a fight to restore Zimbabwe's democracy. And there is a lot that the people of Zimbabwe can do. And this is one of them. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.